Alright, so Promeia is the newest character in ZZ. She is normally DPS with a Bloom-centric playstyle, just like Arya, but different attribute and different playstyle overall. Her current best team right now is Nangong and Yuzuha, the Anomaly Wheelchair, the best stunner and support for Anomaly agents, which we will be talking about today, focusing Promeia Abloom damage inside 4 to 5 stuns while also do Ice Eater Disorder plays with Nangong. Her second best is with Vivian, because they synergize very well. Vivian Abloom makes Promeia Corrosive Chill generation becomes really easy, as long as you can get a way to generate Vivian Feather consistently. In the future, Felina might also become a good pair for Promeia, but we'll talk about it when she gets here. There's some variant of stun rotation that you can do, might be different if your setup or fight condition is different, but here's my most comfortable stun rotation on Butcher right now. When you're ready to stun, more than 90 days on the boss, Ice Anomaly almost full, ready to get proc by 1 Promeia EX, Ether Anomaly is half full, Yuzuha EX for buff refresh not long ago, and preferably at least 2 Promeia stacks for Abloom to start. Start by EX special and hold basic for 2 Abloom inside the stun with Promeia. If you proc Abloom too soon hitting it outside the stun, just reset. Then swap to Nangong, immediately hold specials for manual chain, immediately hold basic as she enters her EX special animation, she proc corruption with her EX hits, and as soon as she enters her enhanced basic animation, swap back to Promeia with a quick assist and use her ultimate, freezing the previous corruption immediately. Back to Nangong chain attack to fill the Ether meter back up, EX special for the corruption trigger, swap cancel to Yuzuha as Nangong EX special can proc corruption off field, and Yuzuha EX for Moonlight buff refresh mid stun rotation. To Promeia chain attack, hold basic immediately for 2 more Abloom, and after the second Abloom, tap special to use her free EX specials from her ultimate, freezing the boss one more time before the stun ends, for one more decent shatter damage. Now you might be thinking, didn't we still have one more Abloom stack on Promeia and there's still plenty of stun time? Why not spend it all here? If we look at the run review, you see that we are aiming for 5 stun, with 3 to 4 Abloom per stun, with some good amount of disorders. The 5th stun is technically only a half rotation. Even though it's only 4 Abloom per stun on average, I think this is the optimal way to route the rotation. Because let's say you do a 6 Abloom rotation on the first stun here, you will probably only have enough resource for 2 Abloom on the second stun. High stun count requires high resource for damage dealing. It is better to distribute your resource equally to each stun window while also generate it on each spray stun. Different than Vivian, where you really have no problem with corrosive chill generations, Nangong cannot be that good as a battery for Promeia, because her main role here is a stunner and debuffer, which she excels at. Though you wouldn't have this problem if you have M1 Promeia, as it basically gives you 4 to 5 free EX Abloom stack in the rotation, which is really huge damage-wise. And I brought it up because I think it's important. The rotation for M0 and M1 Promeia will be completely different because of this. You should keep that in mind if you have M1. But I wouldn't say you need M1 Promeia to play her. M0 feels just fine for me. The learning curve that you will face on playing Promeia is her corrosive chill generations for her Abloom, which is her main damage source. Different than Evelyn for example, where an EX special is half a resource bar, Promeia resource generation is more arduous. Here's what you need to keep in mind while playing Promeia for her resource generation. Every time Promeia trigger freeze, that's plus 5 corrosive chill. So in this case, double proccing freeze is alright for Promeia resource generation. Just keep in mind after you freeze, you need to build the ice meter back up again for the next rotation. And try not to interrupt the boss too much because you still want to fish Yellow Glint for defensive assist most of the time. So avoiding too much freezing would also be best. Each disorders also a plus 5. So keep proccing disorder in the rotation is really important. Play around with the Ice and Ether disorder with Nangong in the rotation. And don't forget Yuzuha can also proc Assault for more disorders. If let's say you miss the disorder because the previous anomaly fizzles after 10 seconds, that's a minus 5, which may not be much. But you might be surprised how often a situation where you feel like you can get one more Abloom in the run if you have a bit more corrosive chill. This one is huge. Promeia EX Parry is a plus 10. Really good for resource generations. It's also swap cancelable, so you can go on to Nangong Dazing for example. But it interrupts the enemy a lot, so you may need to learn when is a good timing to use our EX parry in the run. And you may also want to take the defensive assist more rather than parrying it with Promeia EX, because the alternative might not be as bad. Promeia basic attack also generates corrosive chill, but her normal basics doesn't generate a lot. You can rely on just this for a resource. But what you can do with it is by fishing for dodge counter before defensive assist with Nangong. This generates a decent amount of corrosive chill. There's also some minute decisions that you can do where you can get more resource by doing. For example, instead of swap cancelling Promeia Abloom after it hits, instead swap cancel to Nanggong inside the stun on Promeia ground slam because it also generates a bit of corrosive chill. Getting 5 stun with Nanggong may not be as easy as you think. Her dazing is really good, but to follow this rotation, you might need to get her skill level to 11 or 12. To get as much time on the 5th stun as we can possibly get, make sure to not let the boss freeze too long inside the stun. We want to stun the boss fast and also get out of the stun fast, so we can go on to the next stun. If you freeze the boss, immediately shatter it. Here's the general pre-stun strategy in this run. At the end of stun, the boss will end in freeze. Next, Promeia need to fill the ice meter to almost full for the start of the next stun. You can do this by attacking with Promeia or use a aftershock build-up. Then you may or may not need to get defense resist for Nanggong. It depends, because you may need it for Disables to get Nanggong ultimate or the daze, but sometimes you don't need it to stun. Nanggong ultimate, trigger corruption for a disorder, get the daze meter to around 90, and fill the ether meter to about half. Lastly, use the EX for buff refresh and Promeia EX to start the next stun rotation. We really don't want to spend too much time in the pre-stun, because if we drag the fight too long, we might not get meaningful damage on the 5th stun, or not get it at all, which also shows difficulty in resource generation for every stun rotation, as there's so little pre-stun time. And you may already see that the rotation depends heavily on Bacha moveset RNG. You need to really plan out the routing and timing for an optimized run. Filling half of ether meter by Nanggong on its pre-stun is important for the next stun rotation. Here I can safely do it with just 2 of her enhanced basic, but without her signature AM main stat, the anomaly meter control might be different a bit. If the anomaly meter setup is not right, you might fail to proc corruption with just an EX inside stun, which is awkward, but I wouldn't call it a run killer, because we don't really have a tight stun rotation here. Also, one important routing I did here that I need to point out, for most of the time, Yuzua Aftershock attribute is on Promeia Ice, but at the start of stun 4, I switched Yuzua Aftershock attribute to Ether by using her EX before Nanggong proc corruption. I do this so that at last pre-stun, Nanggong defense resist and EX will proc corruption, giving enough disables for ultimate to the 5th stun. I think I've pointed out all the important part of this run in the first part of the video. Let's talk a bit more about the build. Why use pen ratio D5 on Promeia when she has Death Threat? Isn't Death Threat and pen ratio doesn't mix well? That's true, but considering how much saturated damage percent stat in the fight condition here, pen ratio actually come out better. Also, my pen ratio D5 is just way better than other option for my Promeia. My pen ratio D5 is 6 sub-roll, while my ice damage D5 is only 3 sub-roll. That's also maybe why. I would say it's still okay to match Promeia 40% depth threat with 24% pen ratio, but if your Promeia is M1 with her 60% depth threat, then I may consider not using pen ratio D5 on her. Nanggong here is built as a sub DPS, with high-end AP and attack build. Building Nanggong for damage gives better return here. What do I think about support build with Astral Voice on Nanggong for Promeia? I don't think it's good. Either way, this rotation doesn't incorporate much Promeia quick assist in the rotation. One reason for that is because I think Promeia quick assist is kinda bad, so you can use this rotation for Astral Voice Nanggong. And in my opinion, Astral Voice Nanggong only works if you are running her without her signature. In which case, yeah, her personal damage drops a lot. Might as well run her as support. Feel free to ask more about the team and rotation in the comment. Lastly, I'll answer your most important question. Can Promeia kill this Beefy Butcher? Nah, I don't feel like it is possible with all M0 setup, but getting higher score than this is definitely possible. I have a feeling I can get 62k with more grinding time. As you see here, stun 3 and 5 only has 3 Abloom instead of 4. I don't think there's enough way to generate Corrosive Shield for 4 Abloom on all stun, but if I can get 1 more Abloom on a stun and prevent some minor damage loss, I think 62k is a possibility. For now, I'll leave this team here, run some other teams for a video this week, and maybe I'll go back here to get a new PB? Let's see. Like and subscribe to see more of Promeia.